Scene 6. The trial.
What a beautiful day for a conviction.
4 weeks on from the very public arrest of Damien Tabloid, Inspector First Biggins stood outside the courthouse in the town centre, and with Lola by his side, he prepared for his entry into the hallowed building, bristling with confidence. But Lola still wasn't convinced. What was this dynamite evidence that First had been going on about back at the station?
Oh, he's gonna need to be firm in there. I really hope it holds up in court.
She double-entendred. They walked up the steps, surrounded by photographers and press. Lola appeared to stumble and lost her grip on First's arm, falling to the floor. As she landed, 4 of her blouse buttons popped open, and the camera flashes were everywhere.
Are you okay, policewoman Thigh Rub? No doubt we'll see that picture on page 3 of the local rag. Mind you, the size of them, we might need page 2 as well. Laughing.
Inside the court, people of the legal profession took their seats, but were forced to return them to the place from whence they came. As the lady judge entered, everyone stood up, and the court official shouted,
Call Damien Tabloid! Call Damien Tabloid! Call Damien Tabloid! Call Damien Tabloid!
No one knew why he had to repeat it so many times. Tabloid looked rough as he took his place in the dock. He appeared not to have shaved for days. His clothes looked like they'd never been introduced to an iron, and his nasal hair was protruding in such an unseemly way that onlookers were postponing dinner dates because of a sudden lack of appetite. A hush fell across the court as Biggins rose to his feet.
If it pleases your honour, I would like to call my first witness. Call Dennis Squared.
The gasp of the courtroom was devastating, as was the look on Tabloid's face. Squared entered, took his place in the witness box, and winked at Tabloid, as if to say, Don't worry, mate. I've got this covered. They won't get anything out of me. You're home and dried, my son.
Dennis. Do you like cycling?
Yes. What if I do?
And whilst you cycle, do you like to sing?
Maybe. Your Honour. I mean, ma'am, what is this all about? Surely I'm allowed to sing and ride a bike at the same time, aren't I? There's no law against that, is there?
Where are you going with this, Mr. Biggins?
Dennis's own response and the judge's comments started to make him feel more confident, and Tabloid nodded his agreement back to Dennis, as if to say, You're doing all right, sunshine. Just keep holding it together. Don't let them get to you, and we'll be okay.
Do you like the old musical songs, Mr. Squared?
This Biggins question definitely shook Squared. He seemed to visibly tremble, as did Lola, with anticipation and ample breast tissue.
I'm thinking in particular of that old Cockney classic, Knees Up, Mother Brown.
Yes, I don't mind that one. It's quite jolly, I suppose.
But you're not particularly fond of the original words, are you? Come on, Mr. Squared, speak up, or should I say, sing out.
I don't know what you're going on about, Inspector Biggins. And why are you cross-examining me? And not a lawyer?
Don't change the subject, Mr. Squared. You know very well that I'm qualified to represent the police in court. Don't make out that it's an afterthought by the author.
Oh, detective, prosecuting counsel. Is there anything you can't do, Inspector?
First paused for a while, then, with a facial expression racked with deep contemplation, he replied,
Origami.
Oh.
Now, Dennis, answer the question. Do you like to make up lyrics to songs as you cycle?
I suppose so.
On the morning of the 8th of April, did you or did you not meet Mr. Tabloid near the pound shop in Flatulent Street? Don't try to deny it. We have it on mobile phone video.
Well, what if I did?
You then alighted from your car and took Mr. Tabloid's bike from him after receiving a package. Yes?
Well, I think so.
What was in that package, Mr. Squared?
Nothing really. Just a couple of dodgy films. Yes, that's right. 2 dodgy films. Summer Holiday with Cliff Richard and Catwoman with Halle Berry. Damien and I are both crap film buffs. The court burst into hails of laughter, just like at a Les Dennis concert. Even First joined in. It got so raucous that the judge woke up.
Oh.
Very funny, Mr. Squared. Very funny indeed, but not true. Not even close to the truth. In fact, if the truth was in Scotland, your answer would be in Cornwall. That's how far away from the truth you are, Mr. Squared, Mr. Triangle, Mr. Oblong, Mr. Dodecahedron.
The character of the courtroom changed in a heartbeat, and first was on the attack.
No, Dennis, that package did not contain, as you quite humorously put it, dodgy films, no. The contents of that gift, yes, gift, from Mr. Damien Tabloid was, well, we'll come to that soon enough.
First was playing the room like a very good conductor in front of an excellent orchestra in a very nice concert hall with state-of-the-art air conditioning and more than adequate toilet facilities.
Let me take you back to that morning. After you left Mr. Tabloid, you began to cycle off in a southeasterly direction. Is this correct?
If you mean towards the Legson Cross Railway Station, then the answer is yes.
Tell me, did you happen to notice a jogger beside you as you cycled along?
Suddenly there was no one else of importance in the court, except for First and Dennis. They had everyone's attention, and all were transfixed as the inspector moved things on apace.
Come on, Dennis. Surely you remember the jogger.
I think so. Yes, okay. I remember a jogger.
Well, that deceptively young-looking nubile running person was none other than me.
The inspector crowed, and the gasp from the court and Squared himself registered 12 on the rectum scale. You could cut the atmosphere with a spatula.
Yes, we were together for about 2 miles that morning, and without realizing it, you gave the singing performance of your life. You see this?
First held up his mobile phone.
Versatile little babies, aren't they? You can call up a loved one, text a friend, video, whatever you wish, and, oh yes, they can also work as a voice recorder.
Dennis looked at Tabloid, and Tabloid looked at Squared. Or to put it more succinctly, they looked at each other. Then, for the first time, Damien Tabloid spoke. What the hell have you done, Dennis?
The prisoner must be kept quiet. Silence in court, Mr. Tabloid.
Let's have a listen, shall we?
He held up his phone and pressed play. But to his surprise, out came Lola's voice.
Oh my God, First, I love you. Just being here in your office, even when you're away from the station, makes me feel horny. Oh, wriggling around in your chair makes me moist. Oh, what the... Oh, shit, I've sat on his phone. Well, the hell does this work? Well, I hope it hasn't recorded anything. I couldn't look at him again.
Sorry, folks. Wrong recording.
Lola seemed to slip further and further down her seat. She did it so smoothly one could be forgiven for thinking that she'd done it before. First held up the phone again and said,
Better luck this time.
At first all that could be heard was panting and the occasional passing car. But then Dennis Squared started humming. Quick as a flash, Biggins whipped out a banjo and started phonetically to tune it to Squared's key. Then, as he picked up the cyclist's rhythm, he started to strum along to Knees Up Mother Brown, the Dennis Squared version.
I took her round for lunch, put poison in the punch. Under the table she did die, then I flew her to the sky. We reached a lonely forest, and that's where the body went. A bike we threw because we knew it would put them off the scent. Oh my, I said the man was tall, and I said the man was tall, but he's not tall at all. Oh my, now the mighty fall, and that means Goldie Digger too.
First pressed pause, and Tabloid jumped to his feet like a jumping bean in human form. What the hell is that supposed to be, Biggins? Dennis could be singing about anybody. That's no proof of anything.
Yes, it's all very tuneful, Inspector, but this is a court of law. Where is the definitive proof?
Forgive me, ma'am, but the song isn't finished yet. I merely paused it for dramatic effect and to give a bit more background to these events. Mr. Squared, you have quite a few hobbies, don't you? I'm not talking about everyday innocent pastimes like your fetish shenanigans. You fly helicopters, don't you?
Yes?
More specifically, you fly the Sky Traffic Copter for Skylight News, don't you?
Only part-time?
And you knew Mr. Tabloid through this line of work. Would I be right in my annoyingly smug assumption?
Well, I've seen him around once or twice.
On with the song.
Oh, I've done very well. That bitch has gone to hell. Underhanded I might be, now I'm loaded with money. He said that she deserved it, it was the time to strike. And so he did it, really did it, now I'm on me bike. Oh my, what an alibi, what an alibi, what an alibi, yes. Oh my, he said she had to die, and paid me for my help in cash.
Biggins paused the recording again and was just about to speak when suddenly the attention of the crowd was torn away from him, when the big oak double doors at the back of the courtroom flew open and hit the wall either side with a deafening crack. Everyone turned around to see an old man with a long white beard and a red suit standing there, laughing.
Ho, 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 ho.
Hey! Everyone shouted and he left. But from behind him appeared a younger man with slightly graying hair and a minimal mustache. He wore crocodile shoes, alligator pants, wildebeest socks, and a very smart suit of Italian design. He moved, full of purpose, towards the front of the court, and very soon he was approaching the bench. No one thought to warn him, and so he fell over it. After picking himself up, he walked past the inspector and approached the judge.
Your Honor, my name is Boyle Lansing, and I'm late counsel for the defense. Madam, I am Mr. Tabloid's representative.
Where the hell have you been, you stupid dipstick? We've been going on for bloody hours.
She said, using legal speak.
There was a sale at DFS, and I didn't want to miss it. Do you know there's nothing to pay until the bailiffs arrive?
The judge peered over her glasses and said,
Will somebody please remove all these glass tumblers from my desk so that I don't have to keep peering over them? Well, you're here now, Mr. Lansings. You'd better get on with it. Inspector Biggins, play your evidence again for the benefit of the defense counsel.
Biggins played the song again, and this time, because people in the court remembered some of the words, they started tapping their feet and singing along. First stopped the recording again at the same place.
There, Mr. Lansings, you're all up to date.
Which is more than can be said for that style of banjo playing, Inspector.
Boyle sneered, and people laughed under their breath. Lansing's was starting to turn the tide already in a way King Midas could have only dreamt of. Even Damien Tabloid allowed himself a nervous smile like a monk who mysteriously found himself in a convent bathroom. Lola stood up.
Don't you talk about the inspector. At least he arrives on time. Apart from that night in February, but it was my fault for being late.
Sit down, officer. I think I can handle myself.
I rest my case.
Your Honor, where is the evidence in this so-called confessional song? My client isn't mentioned. The singing is dreadful, and as for motive, there obviously isn't any. Miss Digger worked for another TV news network. They were simply acquaintances.
That's not strictly true. For only last night, the boss of Skylight News, Sir Stephen Thong, told me in a recorded interview that for a while it was known around the TV centre that Tabloid was having a secret and torrid affair with the Virginess and seemingly untouchable Miss Goldie Digger. Damien believed it was love, but popular rumour suggested that Goldie was apparently using him to get him in the Skylight News hierarchy, for she knew they were looking to replace the old news anchorman, Giles Farmer, who was retiring and starting to smell a bit funny. Although Damien Tabloid was next in line for the position, the final decision on Giles' replacement had not been made up to that point. Somehow, Tabloid found out that Goldie had slept with one of the directors, and he obviously didn't take this very well. And hell hath no fury like a journalist scorned, as they say in the Woman's Own. Still a surprisingly popular magazine. Let's hear the last verse, shall we?
Your Honor, do we have to listen to this dirge again? It's an affront to music.
Indeed we do, Mr. Lansings. A woman has died, and we have a duty to listen to every bit of evidence. And anyway, I think it's quite catchy. It has a Justin Timberlake quality about it. So sit down, you smart-suited individual. Carry on, Inspector, or should I say, take it away, Maestro.
The song continued to Biggins' accompaniment.
My song is nearly done, and Damien Tabloid's won. He's got the job and paid me well. For porcupines I had to tell, and no one's even sussed it. The boy kid put them off. There's no more bitching, now I'm rich, I'll just act like a top. Oh my, Damien and I, we did it on the sly, and now my time's to fly. Oh my, I cannot tell a lie, and both of us are guilty men.
The song ended, and the audience burst into applause. First stood up and took a bow for his banjo playing and for solving the case. Tabloid and Squared were taken down, and the inspector walked out of the courtroom bouncing on air like a baby lamb on a spring morning in Tiverton, to be greeted by a frenzied press corps. Yes, everyone was after the Biggins soundbite for that evening's news.
Ladies and gentlemen, please. I have only one thing to say. Here today, justice has been done. Tabloid and Squared won't be seeing daylight for a while, apart from out of their prison cells, because they have to have windows nowadays, or else the mealy-mouthed do-gooders at the human rights organisations would be up in arms. But anyway, the law has prevailed, and the case is now closed. Miss Goldie Digger can rest in peace. And maybe we can all go home for a little rest, like the one I use on my tiny pool table. I'm only joking. Thanks, everyone, for your interest. Now I have to go. Policewoman Thyrub and myself have a few loose ends to tie up. You know, red tape and all that. Lola, are you with me?
For as long as you want me, Inspector.
They kissed passionately, and 3 blouse buttons pinged.
Ooh.
The Incredible Inspector Biggins was written by and starred Andy Ford. Also appearing, David Keller as the narrator and Sue Douglas as Lola. This has been a Comedy Club production.